Welcome back to Grammar Grade 9. This is Unit 11, Lesson 73, and today we're tackling a comma that trips up even strong writers, the comma in a compound sentence. It's the comma you use to join two complete thoughts into one, and once you see how it works, you'll place it with real confidence. Let's dig in. Let's start with the big picture. Sometimes we take two complete thoughts and join them into one sentence. Listen to these two on their own. The choir sang and the band played. Each of those is a full sentence with its own subject and its own verb. Each one could stand completely alone. But when we join two of them together, we build what's called a compound sentence. So how do we join them? We use a small connecting word called a coordinating conjunction. There are a handful of these to know. And, but, or, nor, yet, and for. These little words link two equal main clauses, two ideas of the same rank. And here's the test that matters most. On each side of that conjunction, you should have something that could stand as its own complete sentence. If both sides could stand alone, you've got a true compound sentence. Now for the rule itself, and it's a clean one. When you join two main clauses with one of those conjunctions, you put a comma right before the conjunction. Watch this sentence. The rain fell and the wind rose. First comes the opening clause, the rain fell. Then, right at the seam, we drop in a comma. And the second clause follows, and the wind rose. Notice exactly where that comma lands. It sits just before the word and, marking the joint between the two clauses. That's the whole rule in one picture. One comma placed right before the joining word. Here's the heart of it. The thing that tells you a comma truly belongs. In a real compound sentence, each clause brings its own subject. Look at this. The waves crashed. There's our first subject, the waves, and crashed is what they're doing. Then comes the conjunction, and. Then the second clause, the gulls scattered. That's a brand new subject, the gulls, and scattered is their own action. Two separate subjects, each with its own verb. That's the signal. When you can point to two subjects like this, you've got two full clauses, and the comma before and is exactly right. Now here's the trap that catches almost everyone, so slow down with me. It all comes down to one subject with two verbs, what we call a compound predicate. Watch this sentence. The dancer bowed and smiled. It looks like it might want a comma before and, but it doesn't. Why not? Because there's only one subject here, the dancer, and that single dancer is doing two things, bowing and smiling. No new subject appears after the conjunction, so no comma goes in. Now compare this one. The dancer bowed and the crowd cheered. This time, a brand new subject shows up after and, the crowd. So now it's a compound sentence, and the comma truly belongs. So the question is always the same. Is there a new subject after the conjunction? If yes, the comma goes in. If no, you leave it out. There's one gentle exception worth knowing. When the two main clauses are very short, you're allowed to leave the comma out, as long as the sentence stays clear. Take this. Dad raked and I swept. Technically, there are two subjects, Dad and I, so a comma would be correct. But the clauses are so short and so clear that dropping the comma reads just fine. Same with this. The sun rose and we set off. Nice and short, easy to follow, so the comma is optional. When both sides are brief and the meaning is obvious, the choice is yours. But short doesn't always mean safe. Here's the catch. If leaving the comma out could confuse your reader, put it back in. Look at this one without a comma. I saw Ben and Kate waved. Read it quickly and your eye trips. For a moment, it sounds like I saw Ben and Kate, as if they're a pair, before waved surprises you. That's exactly the kind of confusion a comma clears up. Add it in. I saw Ben and Kate waved. Now that little comma draws a clean line between the two clauses, and nobody stumbles. So the rule of thumb is simple. When leaving it out could confuse, keep the comma. Let's boil it all down to a quick check you can run every time. Step 1. After the conjunction, is there a new subject? Look right past the and or the but and see whether a fresh subject shows up. Step 2. If yes, if a new subject starts a second full clause, then drop a comma in before that conjunction. But if there's no new subject, if you just got one subject doing two things, then leave the comma out. New subject means a new clause, means a comma. Same subject means a compound predicate, and no comma at all. Answer that one question, and you'll get it right every time. Ready to practice? Let's try a few together. In this first set, I'll read you a sentence, and you decide whether it needs a comma before the conjunction or no comma at all. Pause after each one and think it through before I give the answer. The hikers rested and the guide checked the map. Ask the key question. Is there a new subject after and? Yes, the guide. A brand new subject starting a second full clause. So this is a compound sentence, and it needs a comma before and. The chef chopped the herbs and seasoned the soup. After and, is there a new subject? No, it's still the chef, now doing a second thing, seasoning the soup. One subject, two verbs. That's a compound predicate. So the answer is no comma. The lights dimmed, but the music kept playing. Look after the conjunction but. Is there a new subject? Yes, the music, starting its own clause. Two subjects joined by but makes a compound sentence, so we need a comma before but. Now for the second set. This time, tell me whether each sentence is a compound sentence, two clauses, each with its own subject, or a compound predicate, one subject doing two things. That label tells you whether a comma belongs. Pause and decide before I reveal each answer. My brother washed the car and waxed it. Is there a second subject after and? No. My brother is the only subject, and he does two things, washes, then waxes. That makes this a compound predicate, so no comma is needed. The storm passed and the sky cleared. After and, we get a brand new subject, the sky, beginning its own clause. Two separate subjects means this is a compound sentence, and a comma belongs before and. The teacher read the poem and the class listened. Check after and. Is there a new subject? Yes, the class, with its own verb, listened. Two subjects, two full clauses. So this is a compound sentence, and it takes a comma before and. Let's gather up what we've learned. A compound sentence joins two main clauses, two ideas that could each stand alone, and you place a comma right before the joining conjunction, and, but, or, nor, yet, or for. But watch out for the compound predicate, one subject doing two things, because that takes no comma before the conjunction at all. And remember the fine print. When both clauses are very short and clear, you may drop the comma, but keep it any time leaving it out could confuse your reader. Ask yourself one question every time. Is there a new subject after the conjunction? And you'll always know. In our next lesson, we'll keep building your sense for punctuation. I'll see you there.